Hey guys, it's Girl Got Game. Welcome back to Seduce Me, the Atomi, and this time we're going to do Andrew's route. We haven't seen much of Andrew. We meet him at this party, so I thought I'd bring us in like way into the game because it takes so long to meet him. He's the only human boy that we can date, and we've given him the company thus far when James hasn't been involved. And I'm sure dear old Papa will be just thrilled that we're going to go out with the rival's son. But I'm interested to see how this plays out. This is going to be the only time that we actually follow him once he gets interrogated by our father, so let's find out how that goes. Suddenly at this party, my mom pushed her way through the crowd to me, bringing along someone I didn't know.
Honey, I'd like to introduce you to someone. This kind gentleman is the son of the vice chairman.
So handsome. With my mother stood a man who looked only a couple of years older than me. He smiled and held out his hand to me, silently asking for my hand.
Hi, I'm Andrew Lewis. It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Anderson.
I don't know what it is about him, but he just reminds me of a younger version of our grandfather. Don't know if it's the way he smiles or what. Place your hand in his. As I placed my hand in his, he raised it to his lips and kissed over my knuckles. I felt my face burn slightly at the gesture. Andrew smiled at me before releasing my hand.
I'm honored to be invited here.
My mother smiled at both of us, which made me slightly concerned. Why was she excited to introduce me to Andrew?
So, you organized this party very well, Miss Anderson.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Praise is very much deserved.
Andrew then chuckled nervously, bringing a soft fist to his lips to cover his laugh properly before smiling at me.
I'm sorry if I seem a little forward. I've just been excited to meet Harold Anderson's granddaughter.
Huh? Why?
He used to talk about you all the time in the office on how you helped him refine his toys. I only attended meetings and heard all of the stories. You've helped a lot with the success of the company without having to actually work there.
Oh, wow. I didn't know he talked about me. That would explain everyone's fascination with me and their rather personal questions. I looked at Andrew, who had a kind face to me. Something about him seemed off, and I didn't know what it was. He seemed to be hiding something. I forgot all about this, actually. Whether it was good or bad, I was not able to find out, but hopefully in time I will. I felt someone walk up beside me, causing me to turn to them. Next to me was my dad, giving his cold stare to Andrew, who suddenly became tense.
So, you're Jared's son.
Andrew's body twitched slightly. Whether it was fear or insult, Andrew locked eyes with my father. I couldn't help but feel the tension between them. It irked me how fragile the air had become, enough to break at the wrong word.
You're the one who wants to be the next CEO of the Anderson Company.
Well...
I stared at Andrew. This guy wanted to take my grandfather's place as CEO? I thought the vice chairman wanted the position.
David, leave the poor boy alone.
I'm merely testing the boy's conversational skills. Nothing wrong with that.
Of course not, sir.
And polite as well. Interesting.
If you'll excuse me.
Quickly, Andrew retreated away from my family into the crowd of people. Follow him. I quickly followed Andrew, wanting to be sure he was all right. I felt a little embarrassed that my dad put him on the spot like that. I had to apologize. We wound up outside. The stars practically danced on the grass as we stood in the backyard of the mansion. It had been my first time in years being out there, but my thoughts weren't on the nostalgia. Hey, Andrew. Andrew turned to me in surprise. However, his face was completely red in both embarrassment and humiliation. I felt terrible.
Oh, I didn't see you or hear you following. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I should be the one to apologize.
What for? You didn't do anything wrong.
I mean, for the way my dad behaved. He shouldn't have been so...
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, I should have expected it and been more prepared.
Andrew rubbed the back of his neck and gave a goofy grin. It was intriguing, seeing Andrew's professional side and then seeing a goofy smile away from everyone. Still, I'm sorry for that.
It's not a problem, really, but thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Angel, you don't gotta apologize for your dad. I know it's hard, and we feel responsible for some things that our parents do sometimes, but... Oy. We both smiled at each other before I reached my hand out to him. He tilted his head and raised an eyebrow in confusion. Angel. My name is Angel. Oh, we got a picture already. Wow-wee. In understanding, his smile returned before he took my hand gently and shook it.
That's a pretty name. I'm happy to know it now.
Nah, it's not that nice.
I have to disagree with you. It's much better than Andrew. I mean, who names their kid Andrew?
Lots of people. Yeah, a lot of people do.
But how about Axel or Ace? Something cool like that.
You can always go by Andy. I don't know if that makes it sound any better. I couldn't help but laugh at him. He was pretty chill for a guy who was supposed to be a vice chairman's son. He grinned and laughed along with me. I don't know why, but I felt warm. Whether it was the almost non-existent breeze or the situation we found ourselves in, it felt nice.
Lewis.
Uh-oh. Dad's prowling. He knows something's up. And just like that, the feeling had vanished. We both turned to see my dad at the doors of the mansion, staring at Andrew with almost a deadly glare. Andrew straightened up, trying to maintain a business posture.
Yes, sir?
Your limo is in the front. The driver has requested that you return home. Now.
Oh boy.
Oh, all right. Thank you, sir.
We're gonna get it, aren't we? I know that look. Andrew quickly nodded to me before speeding back into the mansion to leave. As I took a step to follow, my dad stepped in front of me. Dad.
I don't want to hear it. Do not become friendly with him. He wants to take the company away from us. You have no reason to be friends with him.
Mm-hmm. A likely story. Before I could retort, my dad turned away and walked back inside, muttering about how the party was nearing an end. I entered the house as well, wanting for the party to end immediately. Eventually, only Suzu, Naomi, my mom, and my awful father and the incubi were left. Alright, let's skip ahead. Bang. Get out of my house, guy! And duck! Yike! There wasn't... Okay, yeah. I'm like, we have our dream, right? The future.
I promise to be with you forever. You're so important to me.
I swear I'll give my life to you.
Please, let me love you.
I'll be by your side, always.
I can't imagine living without you.
I want to be with you.
I love you.
There's Andrew. Can't help but notice that Diana is not included in that dream. Okay, this time I'll work on my homework. Don't disturb them. I'm gonna have pizza. I'm gonna go to my room. And then, I'm assuming grandfather's grave. I can stay in my room too, but... I'm assuming. It was Sunday, and I felt the need to see my grandfather. It had been 3 days since he had been buried, and the cemetery was only a short walk away. I decided to see him. I took my time eating and headed out to the street to walk towards the cemetery. It was a good half-hour walk, but it would be a nice stroll. A flower shop was on the way, so I could pick up flowers for his grave. I still felt the sting of grief run through my bones, but I knew that it would eventually fade over time. I paused my journey to the cemetery to enter the flower shop, quickly picking a bouquet from the back display case and paying. The bouquet of lilies, please. Thank you. With flowers in hand, I made my way to the large steel gates of St. Joseph's Cemetery. I entered and felt the cold shiver of death run through the air against my skin. Would it always be like this? The cemetery was a final resting place. It wasn't just for mourning or sadness. It was supposed to also be a place for remembrance. I walked through the cemetery towards my grandfather's grave. Before I could reach it, though, I noticed a figure standing by the slab. Huh? Who's that? I stopped walking and tried to focus my sight to see who was standing at my grandfather's grave before I approached. I didn't want to interrupt a prayer or anything, but even more, I wanted to know who exactly was there. My mind barely considered the fact that it was my father, but it couldn't have been him. Familiar brown hair crowned this person's head instead of the black and gray my father had. He was vaguely familiar. Andrew? Oh, that's what you look like in normal clothes. Interesting. It was indeed Andrew. He was dressed in casual clothes, but he was giving his respects to my grandfather. I was curious as to why. I quietly stepped closer and approached Andrew in the grave, being careful to not scare Andrew. At my footsteps, Andrew turned to see me, and realizing it was me, turned fully to me.
Oh, Miss Anderson. I'm sorry. I'll just...
Andrew quickly shook his head and took a step to leave. You're fine, Andrew. I stopped him with a hand and smiled. He was merely paying his respects. There was no need for me to intrude. Andrew stared at me before smiling and nodding, returning to his place in front of the grave. He took a side step to make room for me, so I stepped next to him. I looked at the grave, running my gaze through the engraving in the stone slab before gently laying my bouquet down by it. However, I didn't stand back up. I gently sat down on the grass in front of the grave and stared at it.
Lilies?
Common flowers for gravestones, yeah? My grandfather didn't have a favorite flower. I heard and felt Andrew gently crouch down and sit beside me. I turned my head to look at him, catching him nodding in acknowledgement to my statement. I turned back to the grave, letting out a small sigh. So, can I ask why you came here?
I came to pay my respects. He was someone I really idolized.
I turned my head to him again, confused. Idolized?
Mm-hmm. He inspired me to work hard and make people happy. When I interned for his company, he was the first person to greet me at the doors with open arms, even before my father.
I almost couldn't believe what I was hearing. However, the look in Andrew's eyes made my heart break. He truly idolized my grandfather like he was his own grandfather.
Your grandfather was an amazing man, but I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. He treated me better than my dad ever could. All my dad cares about is me becoming the CEO. But Harold Anderson? No.
Too real, man. We got two similar backgrounds. I could practically feel my lips move in sync with Andrew's as he continued to speak, almost hearing my grandfather speak alongside him in the air.
He said, "Don't worry about it so much. You have plenty of time to decide. Besides, you should do what makes you happy instead."
Sounds familiar. He said that to me, too. Andrew turned to me in surprise before smiling.
Really? He cared a lot about you. There were days that he wouldn't stop talking about you and compared you to me.
Aw, you guys are just fated to be, aren't ya? Your legs look really small compared to the upper half of your body. I just gotta say, perspective's a little strange here. I felt a blush run across my face. What things did he say?
Well, he told me how cute you were and how you love to make people happy. He also said you always had the perfect ideas for his toys.
I felt a smile grow on my face, remembering the small moment when I had helped him design his now most popular toy, the glowing heart bear. I didn't realize how proud of me he was because I was so small, but now that I was older, I was able to understand. He always had me help him, even when I didn't feel like I could. He was the greatest person ever in my life. He treated me better than my dad.
How does your dad treat you?
He's pretty harsh to me. He wants me to be the CEO of the company as well, since it's technically a family business.
He's strict, like my dad. Well, if it ever came to a time where the board had to decide a CEO, I'd gladly give it up for you.
I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Didn't he want the position? Why? Don't you want to be CEO? To my surprise, Andrew shook his head with a goofy smile.
I don't. My dad wants me to take over the Anderson company, but I really am not sure if I want to or not. Sure, making toys is great and helping people is something I want to do, but I don't know if I want to head the company.
Maybe you two could start something new together. You're not sure what you want to do. Just like me.
You don't want to be a CEO either?
I shook my head. Andrew let out a small laugh.
Man, we must be the worst kids on the planet. Our dads want us to take over a company, but we don't even want to. Imagine what would happen if they actually liked each other.
I couldn't help but laugh with him. We were in the same boat, yet we were on opposing sides. It was like Romeo versus Juliet. Two families competing for one goal, but the competitors didn't want to even try to reach that goal. Andrew gently stopped laughing and smiled at me.
Your grandfather was right about one thing, though. You are really cute.
You are really bold, sir. The blush that had faded from my face suddenly returned at his words. I looked away from him, making him laugh again.
Sorry, it's true. Cross my heart.
Thanks. He was flattering me. I had to admit, he was cute too, but I had only known him a short while. It wasn't realistic to like him more than that. Oh, with this guy you think that? With this guy? Angel. You baffle me, girl. Andrew cleared his throat and sat up straight, rubbing the back of his neck.
I'll let you have some time with your grandfather. I don't have anywhere to be, so I'll wait by the gates and give you a ride home when you're done.
Thank you. It was very sweet of him to wait for me, so I accepted his ride home. Andrew smiled before heading back to the gates. I remained with my grandfather. I'm sure you're laughing where you are, Grandpa. I practically glared at the grave, but after a brief second, I smiled. He's a sweet guy, and he's a big fan of yours. Who wouldn't be? You cared for everyone, no matter who they were. I gently ran a finger over one of the lilies in the bouquet. It was soft to touch, but my mind was filled with Andrew for some reason. Was this grandfather's plan? Did he hope for me to meet Andrew as a kindred spirit? I wouldn't be surprised. I chuckled softly before standing. I'll be fine, Grandpa. Andrew's a good guy, but who knows? I shrugged before letting out a sigh and turning back to the cemetery gate, where Andrew awaited me. Andrew led me into his car and drove me home. I went to my room and remained there until dinner. Alright, so the night's passing. I'm just gonna stand up and walk away from you, girl. Okay, so we're gonna fight. Fight. And then we gotta give up our memories. That noise is so terrifying. Ah. So, I looked at my phone and saw a text I must have completely forgotten about.
Hey, I know you have school today, but do you want to hang out after?
I couldn't help a small smile from growing on my face. Andrew was sweet and seemed like a good guy. I remembered how he gave me his number as he dropped me off at home for my visit to Grandfather's grave, making my small smile bigger. I texted back. Sure, why not? I made myself some quick toast and coffee, needing a jump start. I felt drained. I did not want to fall asleep in class. Okay. I decided to keep my eyes to my notebook. I began to scribble random doodles, some which stuck out to me more than others. Any purple pencils? I had somehow managed to doodle a small bear with a heart on its stomach. I cracked a small smile at the image, imagining the heart lighting up on my paper as I pressed the eraser of my pencil on it. I remembered what had happened last week, slowly frowning at the memories of my grandfather. I guess it was still hard to let him go. To lose someone is never easy, but I knew that moping and letting his memory get to me wouldn't do any good. I felt, though, that he was watching over me. As stupid as that may sound, I felt that I was somehow safe. Like it was okay to not focus on school or my future and just live in my own little world. I could be a little girl and draw pictures instead of plan out the rest of my life and be perfectly happy. Sadly, I knew that wasn't realistic. Graduation was slowly coming up and my mind had wandered into the future once again. what was I going to do? It was hard to think about. At this rate, I just wanted to wing it. No decisions had to be made ahead of time in my little world. No disappointments would come out of whatever I decided to do in my little world. Hell, maybe I could have found a perfect magical love in my little world and life would just turn out like a dream. It was sad to think that my world wasn't real, yet my heart still wished that it was. It gently squeezed inside my chest, almost convincing me that magic could be real. My mind knew better because a succubus had changed it. I let my little world hide away in my thoughts as the class bell rang. Naomi and Suzu smiled at me, not having any issues of their own, making me feel a little better. At least I still had my friends. I quickly gathered my things and left to my next class.